think it's not everybody you're talking to. There's some people who might did a little reading, but for me, every day I walking with it to work and always being
Good morning, sir.
distracted and still in picking up the book. Morning.
I know what you mean. That's a challenge for me right now because I don't like reading. This is the whole thing. If I can listen to it in a recording, that would be good.
Yeah,
But
I know.
Good morning,
it's a
everyone.
bit of it. Good
Good
morning,
morning,
Miss.
Good
Miss. How
morning.
are you?
Good
I'm
morning,
good.
Miss.
How
Good
are you
morning.
all? How are you all? June, are you still sleeping?
No.
No.
Very good, Miss.
Is it still like darker?
Yeah, we'll have to adjust the light here. Hold on,
Okay,
hold a minute.
right. Okay, so we are meeting almost after 10 to 11 days. All right. So today I think we have to start Unit 3, Measurement of Intelligence. Last we have done the different theories of intelligence.
Yes, Miss.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So are you clear with the theories of intelligence? Is there any doubt? Do you have
Good
any
morning,
questions?
Miss. Good morning,
Good
colleagues.
morning. Yes, good
One
morning, everyone.
question, please, Miss. In attempting to mark my attendance, I noticed on the MPC-1 we have just got up to April 17th. Could you advise?
Sorry, I didn't get your question, Tamika.
I am saying, in attempting to mark my attendance, I noticed we have only got up to April 17th
Yes.
in the options. Could you
Okay.
advise?
Oh, acha. Okay, well, I'll see this after the class. Just, we'll see this question after this issue after the class. Is it with everyone?
Yes, Miss.
Yes, Miss.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
miss.
okay,
Thank
I
we'll
you.
miss I
contact
won't be here till the
Ashok
end
sir.
of the class. I have
Miss, I
to
was never able to mark any of the sessions I attended.
session.
I was never able to mark in. I'm not sure why, but I'm not getting to mark any of the sessions. So as it is, I might be
All right,
looking
don't
as though I'm
worry.
not in the class.
Okay, don't worry. We'll call
Okay,
Ashok
thank
sir
you.
for the same at the end of the class, right? Before 10 minutes, we'll
I
call
don't
Thank
think
you.
Ashok.
Yeah,
I'm in
I
every
was
call,
worried
so
because
feeling very high because I was
trust
able
me,
to
I'm not
mark
worried.
mine. If someone else can
On
share,
the today's date, on
Oh,
the
the
you able to mark?
23rd.
23rd.
Yes, the 23rd.
Wow, let me double check.
Yes, Miss. I were able to mark mine. I
Yes.
didn't
So
have a problem with mine.
is that on the MPC-1 that you were able to mark it or on the MPC-2? It's on their
Yeah.
MPC-2 because remember they would have had scheduled it by now. We should have been here. So I guess that's right. why. So that's what I'm querying whether we should mark it on the
Oh,
MPC-2 or MPC-1.
No, so
Oh,
you
okay.
mark it on MPC 2 only because two classes were cancelled due to the holiday, due to Easter holidays.
Thank you, Miss.
Yeah, so mark it on MPC 2 only. Don't worry. Just go with the schedule.
Thank you, Miss.
But don't worry, we are talking about block 3, that is no, not block 3, we're talking about unit 3 from measurement of intelligence. And we have talked about the different theories of intelligence. Now, over here, we'll try to understand. So, this topic has mentioned, I mean, they have talked about the history of how psychological intelligence tests were started or developed. So, this is what you're going to see, as you can see in the index. So, what is the theoretical background of measurement of intelligence? So, they have talked about general factor theories. Then, what are the multiple factor theories for which the tests were developed? Like Thurston's primary mental abilities, Guilford's model of structure of intellect, Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence, Sternberg's triarchic theory, Werner's hierarchical theory. So all this will talk about the multiple factor theories for which the measurement of intelligence test was constructed, or test or intelligence tests were constructed. Then next we have the history of other intelligence tests such as Galton and Cattell. So these were some very first individuals who developed psychological tests. Somebody has joined. So who developed psychological tests? Then we also have the contribution by Alfred L. Binet. So you might know his name. He has developed various psychological intelligence tests during his time. Then we also have yeah. So what is the concept of IQ? How do we came to this conclusion that IQ can be measured? What is the mathematical formulation to measure the IQ? Then what is the relationship of intelligence test and how it was used in World War One and Army personnel selection? Then next is what are the different types of intelligence test. So we all have this intelligence test. So they are not basically any theories, but there are some history on how intelligence tests were constructed. So we have studied the theories, we have studied the different types of intelligence theory, but now we are going to study what um, what kind of psychological test, intelligence test were developed for what purpose. So some of them we have Stanford Binet test, Wechsler's intelligence scale. Then Wechsler's intelligence scale is a very famous one. Then structure of Wechsler's adult intelligence scale, edition 4. Then there are certain subtypes. The processing speed index includes these three tests. Then we have Kaufman assessment scales, Kaufman's assessment battery for children, structure of the Kaufman assessment battery for children 2. And then we also have how the scorings are done. So when any tests are developed, they are scored. I mean, there is a manual on which the scoring procedure is written, administration, how administration has to be done, how scoring should be done, and what is the row score and how it could get converted into some standardized scores. So these are the things that you're going to read this. I think I already asked you also to go through the notes. Have you gone through the notes? Unit 3. Was it easy or difficult?
Some of it, miss. I left off at World War One and Army personnel selection.
Okay. So we'll see them in detail, but I'm sure you must have gone through what exactly it is. So here we'll see in 3.2 we'll see that what are the, so I mean we already have gone through this theories of by Charles Payman, that was in the year 1904, and then he claimed that we have two types of intelligence, general intelligence and specific intelligence. So and there were many other psychologists who claimed the same. And even Jensen, he argued that G factor is one of the intelligence that could be that is important in the environment. Then we have Binet and Simon in 1916. So they have also conceptualized general intellectual capacity. So all these people were able to uh, construct construct that a general intellectual capacity consists of 3 or 4, maybe 5. Yes, there are 5 abilities for general intelligence. First is abstract reasoning, comprehension, clear direction of thought, purposeful thinking, and self-corrective judgments. So all this, based on these characteristics, the researchers like Binet and Simon, they conceptualized certain general intellectual capacity or to develop certain tests. So these are the 5 criterias. Then we have, so that was a very general factor theory that was based on the general intelligence. Now we also have test that is based on the multiple intelligence. So you will be able to relate with the theories that we discussed, like you remember Thurston primary mental ability. They have this 7 primary factors that denotes that we have 7 different types of intelligence or different areas of intelligence, like numeral, verbal, space, memory, word fluency, reasoning, perceptual. So all these are there. Okay. Then Guilford also we have seen the content, the operation, the product. So based on these 3 dimension, we also have some other classified content would be into 5 categories. That is visual, auditory, symbolic, semantic, and behavioral. Then operation was divided again into 5 categories: cognition, memory recording, divergent production, convergent production, and evaluation. And then The product was classified again into 6 categories, namely units, classes, relation system, transformation, and implication. So based on this again, we already have seen this, that scientists were developing intelligence test. Then Howard Gardner's theory also, even he believed into 8 different types of intelligence. They are linguistic, logical, spatial, musical, motor ability, interpersonal, intrapersonal, then naturalistic intelligence. So we have all discussed this. You will find a general reading. Then Sternberg's theory, analytical, creative, practical, then yeah, so we have an, I think this theory we haven't seen in the previous unit, but here it is. So Vernon's hierarchical theory, it is quite similar to specific generals, this Charles Payman two-factor theory, but he says that we need an extra and highest level of general intelligence. So and the next level would be again, so for he believed that for specific intelligence we need a bottom level of intelligence, but for general intelligence we need a higher level of intelligence. That's what he believed. He was it's not that every individual will be involved in every kind of intelligence, but he has talked about a bottom level of intelligence and highest level. So bottom level of intelligence is required to understand a certain kind of general intelligence. And for bottom level, I mean, in specific intelligence we can use the bottom level of intelligence. So he has also talked about this. Then now when did the measurement of intelligence get started? So it started long back in the year when we'll see into World War One also, and how army personnel were selected through this intelligence test. But here is a history of, you'll find the history of Galton and Cattell. So the first mental test, I mean the term, not the test, but the term mental test was used first time in the psychological literature by the American psychologist James McKin Cattell in 1890. So when he developed this test, I mean, the test was known as mental test, and then he would measure muscular strength. I mean, to measure the intellectual capacity of an individual, he has talked about, second. So he has talked about muscular strength, speed of movement, sensitivity to pain, keenness of vision and hearing, weight discrimination, reaction time, and memory. So that's what his test would the characteristics would comprise of these factors. Then contribution of Alfred Binet, we can see that he has talked about, like, it was quite similar to Cattell's test only, mental test, but he was different in such manner that he has developed this test I mean, it was a 30 scale item, and it was either pass or fail items. You could see this, and then they were, I don't have that test, but maybe you can search online how the test looked like. But it has 30 items that would measure your mental abilities, and then we also have, there were certain revisions. So when the test was developed, there were many other revisions that was done. The first revision was done in 1908. Then the second revision was done in 1911. Then again in 1912, it was done by Lewis M. Terman in Stanford University. So that test was known as, because it was not standardized. So standardized would be the result would not give an effective. The test would not result an effective result. So that is why a lot of revision was done. Please mute yourself if you're not speaking.
Phyllis, please mute yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so so as you can see, the history of this Alfred Binet test was a long journey. It started in 1905, then 1908, 1911, then 1912. But the test was they've not talked about it in detail, in the sense that it was not um, very much standardized. But later on in the year 1916, so the test was known as Stanford Binet Intelligence Scale. It was standardized, and it was a comprehensive revision of Binet's original scale. So this test was very effective. It has an extensive manual, the administration was really helpful in understanding the mental, the mental ability of an individual or the IQ of an individual. So this one you'll find this is the history. Now here is here. So you would be wondering how people were able to develop the test of IQ. So for that, another concept came into picture, that was known as the concept of IQ. And Stern, again in 1912, they developed this term, this concept known as intelligence question. So and then in the Stanford Binet intelligence scale, this was developed. So as you can see, the formula to calculate IQ is equal to MA upon CA into 100. So CA is your chronological age, and so this was your biological age and your mental age. So for example, we have used Stanford Binet question, I mean scale, the intelligence scale, and then your scores you have scored. Again, I don't have the test right now, but again you can search online if it's available. I'm sure it would be not available online because you have to buy or something, but maybe if you get a chance you can look for it. So let's take an example that in Stanford Binet test, you have scored an IQ of 70. So here you would be writing 70. And that the test was constructed on 19-year-old child, and or 16, maybe a 16-year-old child, and then we have to find what is the mental age of that child, of that 16-year-old person. So using this formula, you can find the IQ of that, or the mental age. Here, IQ we already have because we have given the test. We scored the test from Binet's Stanford Binet test. We want to find what is the mental age. So mental age would be, is the person above his chronological age or below his chronological age. So that one, this formula was used to find the IQ. Okay. Then so World War One has a very long contribution, has a big contribution towards the construction of IQ test. Why? Because when World War One started in 1917, American Psychological Associations, under the leadership of Robert M. Yerkes, they were they were asked to develop tests. They were asked to develop certain tests through which they could recruit appropriate soldiers. So these tests were developed, that was known as American Army Psychologist. I mean, they developed two tests, Army Alpha and Army Beta. And then one was, both the tests were group tests, in which the test was a language test, while the second was a non-language performance test. So through this test, first one was the language test and the other one was performance test. So if individuals will pass this test, then only they will be recruited in the army during World War One. So that was a very big contribution, we can say, that happened. So next we have some major intelligence tests. Okay, intelligence tests are divided into two groups specifically. First one is individual and group test, and the second one is verbal and non-verbal test. So individual and group test would be, individual is, for example, you have what do we call that test? There are certain tests where you have to give individual attention to the participant so that the test can be administered. But group test is where many individuals can be administered at the same time. So you will see this, and the first individual test was, again, it was developed by Simon and Binet. That one they have talked about. And then, as we heard, that in World War One, there were two tests that was developed, Army Alpha and Army Beta. So it was a group test. So group test was given, and then, like right now also, when we appear for aptitude test, it's a group test, right? Everybody is able to give a test at the same time. Then we have verbal and non-verbal test. Verbal test would be where there are certain, for example, there are some digits, there are some stories, or there are some numbers which can be used to conduct this test. While non-verbal would be performance test, maybe they have to move some blocks or some puzzles or some pictures. So all this were under the category of non-verbal test. Then we have types of intelligence scale. So we can hear over here, it is the history of different types of intelligence scale that was developed. So Terman has revised the Stanford Binet with the help of Maud Merrill in 1937, and it is known as Revised Stanford Binet Intelligence Scale, which has 129 items. And there were two forms. One was the large form and the other one was the medium form. You have a question or something? Yes, Charmin?
Yes, has
Yeah.
it relates to non-verbal tests? Would a written test be considered? Because you didn't mention, so I want to know if that would be considered non-verbal, like an exam that you would do. Is that classified as non-verbal as well?
Charmin, can you repeat your question?
When you went through verbal and non-verbal tests, you only spoke about if you're using like blocks or puzzles. I'm asking if you're given an exam. For example, an exam at the end of this course, a written exam, is that classified as the non-verbal test
Yes,
as well?
non-verbal. It would be non-verbal, yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So again, it is the history. So we have this test, this Stanford Binet Intelligence Scale. It has it has the revision has included two alternatives forms, L form and N form, with 129 items. Now, what does it mean by items? Items mean the question that has been asked in the question, a questionnaire or the test. So there were 129 items. Then again, the next revision was done in 1960, and it was after the revision there were 142 items. So there were 142 items, and then revision was done, and then the mean was 100 and standard deviation was 16. So all this you will see, mean and standard deviation you will see in MPC 5 and 6. Then here another we have. So this is the history. You have to read them and you have to memorize them. There is nothing that which can be, which is, you know, difficult to understand. But yes, when we talk about what was the revision that was done from time to time in Stanford Binet Intelligence Scale, so in the year 1986, yes, in 1986 there were more factors that was assessed in the test. First one, verbal reasoning, abstract and visual reasoning, quantitative reasoning, short-term memory. So all these factors were also included to understand the intelligent quotient of an individuals in this test. Okay, so all this are history, and then and this test was could be administered between the ages of 2 to 89 years, and their norms and standardization was kept into mind, and norms, reliability, validity, and norms, all this has to be followed when a test is constructed. So you can see here, and later on many additions were done, like verbal, non-verbal. Then we have this fluid reasoning. So for non-verbal, it would include object series. Verbal, it would include early reasoning, verbal absurdities, verbal analogies, then knowledge, then quantitative reasoning, visual spatial processing, working memory. So just read them once. I'm coming back. Somebody is at the door. Okay, so I was talking about, so these factors were also included later on. Fluid reasoning, knowledge, quantitative reasoning, visual spatial processing, working memory, all these were included later on. So revision was done from time to time. The test was standardized in such a manner that it could be used in any part of the world. I mean, it was an universal test that was constructed, and the standardization was kept in mind so that reliability, validity, and norms would be followed. Then next we have Wechsler's intelligence scale. Uh, so Wechsler's intelligence scale, I'm sure you might have gone through. It's a very famous test. So the first Wechsler's intelligence scale came in 1939. So here you can see the history of Wechsler's intelligence scale. So Wechsler's adult intelligence scale in 1939, 1955, 1981, 1999, and 2008. And recently also we have, right now also, now 4, we are using 4. I'll show the video also. Maybe it's a very important test. Everybody should understand and know this. Then Bechdeli's Intelligence Scale for Children, again 1946, 1949, 1979, 1991, 2003. And then Bechdeli's Preschool and Primary Scale of Intelligence, 1969, 1989, and 2002. So it's a very, very famous test. You'll find here, you'll see, you can read the history. Again, nothing much has to be explained. But yes, we can talk about what are the factors that are included in this, what are the components that are used in this test. So we have verbal comprehension, perceptual reasoning, working memory, processing speed. Then subtest would include similarities, vocabulary information, comprehension, block design, metrics, visual puzzles, picture comprehension, completion, figure, digit span, arithmetic. All this were included. So I really wanted you all to watch a short video on Bechdeli's Adult Intelligence Scale. I'll share that. So any questions before that? Any questions till now? So they are all history of intelligence test, how it was developed and how it was used from time to time. So you can see that it is developed. I mean, psychologists, they've done a very wonderful job that from time to time it has been revised and standardization was followed, right?
Miss, excuse me, one question. In the reading and so forth on intelligence, what I would want to know, is there any link between your intelligence and your genetics?
You can find evidence. I think I would suggest that why don't you get some research papers, some current research papers. So earlier there were few connection, I guess, but now I think we'll see into research papers. So please find a research paper and then we will talk about that.
Excuse me, Miss. In relation to Akin's question, I read in one of the handouts, I think it was Unit 2, that intelligence is 60% genetics. So I think so. There's
Yes.
some relation.
So yeah, maybe that's an old study, but read some current studies. I would suggest please go for some current studies. Okay.
Excuse me, Miss.
Yes.
Can you explain how is mental age determined? How do you determine one's mental age from the
Yeah, so
chronological?
that formula, you remember, IQ is equal to MA upon CA into 100. So IQ, maybe you could give a test to an individual. Maybe just take an example of Bechdeli's Adult Intelligence Scale, and using like after performing in that scale, the person has scored 17. So MA, you wanted to find how mental age is defined. So MA, you can leave MA left, you can leave the MA, and then CA would be maybe 16 is the CA, and then you calculate into 100. So you'll find the MA, the mental age. You just use this. So in place of IQ, write 70. Maybe you can do the calculation. You guys can do. Are you doing that?
Yes.
Yeah, do that. Overview. And meanwhile, I want all you to watch this video. Overview of, because everybody is going to use this. Once you become a psychologist, you will definitely use the intelligence scale.
I think we should explore a few solutions. Grab these suggestions, catch when you're toned. So I want to give you an overview of IQ tests from Wexler.
Miss, we're not seeing the video.
Oh, yeah, I'm sharing my video, just a second.
Theory. And here's just a quick overview of what those tests look like. We'll go into this in more depth. But first, it's important to understand the scoring system. So this is what's called a bell curve. So it's kind of shaped like a bell. And IQ tests are built to fall on a bell curve. So right in the middle here is our mean, our average score. It also happens to be our median in this case, which is the most middle score. Those aren't always the same. It's not a true bell curve. But on the Wexford series scores, this score would actually be 100. Okay? And it's 100 points for the median as well as the mean. Okay? Now, each of these lines is one standard deviation now. Okay? So what that means is average person is actually average. So 68% of people fall in this average range on IQ scores. And what we say here is it's 100, and it's about 15 points is about one standard deviation in the Wexford series. So 85 to 115 is average, 70 to 85 would be for below average intelligence, and 70 or less would be considered to be in the, what formerly was called mental retardation and now is an intellectual disability. If they're above 115 to 130, they're above average. If they're 130 above, we call them achievement. So, but how do we get these scores? Where does that come from? So that's where we come back to here. That number is our full scale IQ. But even within the full scale IQ, we can use those same numbers to analyze things from a verbal IQ standpoint as well as a performance IQ standpoint. So the test is broken down into these two bigger categories that make up the full scale IQ. And these categories is broken down a bit further. So let's look at verbal first. Verbal IQ is looking at verbal comprehension and working memory. Now, let's start with working memory because I think that's easier to understand. So when someone gives you something to remember, hey, write down my phone number. Hold it in your working memory. Hold it for up to 20 seconds, and we can usually hold about 7 plus or minus 2 things at any given time in our memory. So if someone was a really good memory can hold 9 things. Someone low average memory is probably only hold about 5 things, which is probably why most phone numbers are about 7 digits minus the area code. So we're testing the working memory. We can do that a couple different ways. We can do it in arithmetic. We can do what's called digit span, letter number sequence. So I'll give you an example of how digit span works because I think that's a really easy way to understand how this affects your working memory. So what they do is they give you a series of numbers, and you have to repeat them back. So I might say 2, 6, 9, 5, 4, 1, and then get it back. If you have an average memory, you can just spit that back in, okay? And then it keeps going up higher and higher until you can't do it anymore, at which point they can assess memory, okay? They also will digit span if any kind of more challenging, and they'll do it backwards as well. So I give you the numbers, you repeat them backwards to me, and there the average memory is about 5 plus or minus 2. So 7 is really good, 5 is average, 3 is below average. So that's working memory. It's what you hold in your memory. Verbal comprehension is what you understand from a language perspective. So here you have to understand the language that's going on between us. You have to understand the words that I'm saying, or it really limits you. They test your vocabulary. They test the information and your comprehension of it. One of the things they test is similarities. So again, I'll give you an example. When I was in graduate school, I had the chance to practice giving this test. And we would practice giving it to somebody who's weird, but they would pretend to be someone else. And I was working with a peer who would pretend to be a fighter. And in the similarities test, I gave her the similarity. What's similar between 2 items? In this case, it was what's similar between a mountain and a lake. And they just have to come up and, depending on the answer, it could be a 0 point, 1 point, 2 point, or 3 point answer. And there's a scoring rubric that tells you what the answer should be. She said the similarity between a mountain and a lake is that you can ski up. Very creative answer. But because it wasn't in the scoring system, it's actually a 0 point answer. So culture in this case. She grew up in a place where skiing both on lakes and on mountains because of where she lived. There was the options to both. We're very common, so that's how she thought about it. When you go to a mountain, when you go to a lake, you ski on them. That's a much better at. But again, it's a 0 point answer. But again, we're looking for similarities here. That's part of what we're looking at with the verbal comprehension. From a performance IQ standpoint, we have perceptual organization index. So how do we see things? How can we perceive them in our mind, in our mind's eye as well? And our processing speed, how quickly. So for perceptual organization index, block design is a very interesting thing. What they do is they give these, and there's a picture. And in this picture, you have to recreate it. Make it more and more challenging. It requires more of your ability to perceive how this image looks, not only here on this three-dimensionally safer, but then how do you transfer that to a three-dimensional block? And then how do you rotate it in your mind? And how do you change things around? And it's more and more complicated, so you can't do that. The processing speed is very much a time thing. So again, thinking about potential limitations with an individual, if someone has poor fine motor skills, they may have difficulty with things like block design and also digit symbol coding, where the way the test works is they say, hey, here's the alphabet, and each of the alphabetical letters has a symbol that you've probably never written. And here's this giant list, page-long list of things where it's just the letters in order. You have to go in and recreate that symbol as fast as you can. So again, challenging if you have poor fine motor skills. But you try and change that up with some other tests, try to compensate for it. And there are other tests out there that we can use if we know someone has it. But so what are we testing with full scale IQ? Again, we're looking at overall numbers. We're assessing their ability to perform verbally, but also perform in terms of mental acuity and how quickly they can do things. We're testing their working memory. We're testing their verbal skills. We're testing their perception and their processing speed. All right. When we break it down that way, it starts to further analyze. What is intelligence? How are we assessing intelligence? Could it be influenced by culture? Could it be influenced by ethnicity, by age, by other past experiences? And we try to eliminate a lot of that bias to create a valid and reliable source here. The Wexler series is pretty good at that, but you can never eliminate that bias 100%.
Okay, class. So this was an overview on how intelligence tests were constructed. The history, you might have seen the different domains of intelligence or the components of intelligence that has been used to construct a standardized tool to construct a valid and reliable and to fulfill the norms of an intelligence test. Did you get that? Yeah. Okay, coming back to is the screen visible? Unit 3, the PDF?
Yes, miss.
Okay. So you will see this, you will read them. So all these factors like digit, span, arithmetic, and later number sequencing, they have all the examples are provided. Then we have for perceptual speed, we have symbol search, coding, cancellation, and all these are done. And based on this, we have certain interpretation. So we find the IQ, we find the mental age, we can also find the chronological age, and then it can be administered from 16 years to 19-year-old individuals. So that can be constructed, and then IQ could be found, and the ranges. Normal individuals, our IQ would be between 85 to 115. Otherwise, if it's above 115, then that would be superior intelligence or above high gifted intelligence. So this you will find. Then next we have Kaufman assessment scale. I also wanted you to see a demo on Bechdel and the performance is done in the Bechdel at an intelligence scale. We'll see that, but before that, I just want to wrap up this unit. So Kaufman assessment scale for children, again, the history is that it started in the year 1970s, and then even in 1980 and 1983, there were revisions done, and it was based on the theories of intelligence, and based on that, various measurements were done. So the components, so it could be used between the age of 3 to 18 years, and then this test was also was measuring learning, also was measuring memories like long-term retrieval, sequential processing, simultaneous processing, visual planning, fluid ability, verbal ability, crystallized intelligence. Then there were various, it was also the KABC2 was also founded on 2 theoretical models. That was the Luria's neuropsychological model, then Cattell's Horn Carroll approach to cognitive abilities. Again, it's a history you have to read, and you'll find that what are the components that were involved on the construction of this test. Again, here's the history, and otherwise basically the KABC2, the scales were constructed into this manner: work order, number, recall, hands movement, and then the subtests are explained here already. So word order. So the child touches a series of silhouettes of common objects in the same order as the examiner said the names of the objects. More difficult items include an interference task, coloring, naming between the stimulus and response. The number recall, the child repeats a series of numbers in the same sequence as the examiner said them, with series ranging in length from 2 to 9 numbers. The numbers are single digits, except that 10 is used instead of 7 to ensure that all numbers are one syllable. Hand movements. The child copies the examiner's precise sequence of taps on the table with fist, palm inside of the hand. Then simultaneous rover, triangles, conceptual thinking, face recognition, gestal closure, block, counting, all these again were used. Then for planning, pattern recognition, story completion, learning, all this, you just have to read them. So these are some components of intelligence that were used to construct the questionnaires, or that were used to construct the items in the test. And I mean, the test was standardized. It is not much to use, but it's not that effective as compared to Wechsler's adult intelligence scale or Wechsler's intelligence scale, but still it has some space. It has some place in the field of psychology also, but not that. It hasn't gained much importance as compared to Wechsler's intelligence scale. Then we have Kaufman's adolescent and adult intelligence scale, and they were based on the component of crystallized and fluid intelligence or fluid scale, measuring concepts acquired from school, and acculturation and fluid scale, measuring ability to solve new problems. So this was fluid, and if you remember, fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. So based on that, this test were developed. So here is the end of Unit 3. Then next we have. So this was the history. This was the discussion on the different theories of intelligence and the tests that were developed based on that components. And the next test is based on creativity and problem solving. Okay, so what are your take on what do you think? What is the relationship between creativity and intelligence? Is there any relationship? Do you feel that?
Yes, Miss. I think that creativity is closely linked to intelligence, and creativity can also be one of the abilities that we can measure to reflect the level of intelligence of the person as one of
Yes.
the multiple aspects.
Yes, so we'll get into the relationship between creativity and intelligence. Before that, we would try to understand what are the nature of creativity, what is the four criteria, how you could be creative, how creative ideas are created. So an idea is creative when there is a novelty, when there is usefulness. So if you create something which is very novel, which is a new idea, and something which can be used, I mean, so that is one of the characteristics. Then the second characteristics of nature, or the nature of creativity, is that it rejects previously accepted ideas. So something which has been again created in the same field, but it is not used any longer, and your ideas are used. So that is creativity. Then third is requires intense motivation and persistence. So when you have to create something, you need intense motivation and persistency to come to a conclusion, to come to a result. Then fourth would be results from organizing the unclear situation in a coherent, clear and new way. So something where the situation has been very unclear and coherent, but when you're able to think in a new way, in a different way, and certain ideas or a certain result or situation is provided, then that is the characteristics of nature. So this four characteristics or criteria was given by Newell, Shaw and Simon, 1963. Then we also have Sternberg, Robert Sternberg. He has also talked about the 5 commonalities in the research of creativities, and it was given in 2006. The first one is creativity involves thinking that aims at producing ideas or products that are relatively novel and that are in some respect compelling. So second is creativity has some domain specific and domain general elements, in the sense that it needs some specific knowledge, but there are certain elements of creativity that cut across different domains. Creativity is measurable, at least to some extent. Creativity can be developed and promoted. Creativity is not highly rewarded in practice as it is supposed to be in theory. So these are some 5 basic components of how an individual could be creative. So this one you can see it is quite similar to the previous one. Again, it has to be novel in nature. It has to be very domain specific and domain general. and specific knowledge could be used to create certain ideas. Creativity could be measured. It is something which could be measured to some extent, and then it could be developed and promoted. So an individual creativity could be, it's not that once you created something, you should stop there. You should keep on developing certain ideas. And creativity should also talk about how it could be, rewarded in practice. I mean, hand-on experience should be seen in creativity, not just in theories. Then there's certain definition that has been given by researchers Sternberg, Lubert, Runco 2007. They have talked about the what creativity is. Then we have Smith, Warnick, Finke in 1995. They have talked about some 4 characteristics of creativity. So creativity involves imagination. It is the process of generating something original. It should be purposeful. Your imagination should be taken into words, into action, not words but action. Then it should be original from the previous one, and then it should be able to solve a particular problem. And then so creativity, the last one is creativity involves not only the generation of ideas but also evaluation of them. So it's not that you just generate an idea, but you should be able to evaluate them and then decide what is more adequate one. Then we have Baghetto and Kaufman 2007. They have also tried to explain how we can be creative. What are the characteristics that requires to be creative? So it could be experience, action, and events. Then they have talked about 2 types of creativity: the little c, everyday creativity, and the big C, the eminent creativity. So they have talked about this. Then investment and confluence theory. So all these people also, I mean, Sternberg again in 2006, they have talked about what kind of skills are required to be creative. So intellectual skills. So your intellectual skill should be intact. The synthetic skill to see problems in new ways and to escape the bounds of conventional thinking. The analytical skill to recognize which of one ideas are worth pursuing and which are not. The practical. So this one, as you can see in the Sternberg's theory of intelligence, also they have talked about analytical, componential, practical. So again, those can be used even in creativity. That's what he said. The knowledge also. So knowledge, you need a certain kind of knowledge to have some kind of creativity. Then thinking styles, you should be able to think in an analytical and logical manner to create something new. And then your personality should be where you have this willingness to overcome certain obstacles, where you have this willingness to take sensible risk, to tolerate ambiguity, to accept self-efficacy. You need to understand self-efficacy. So all these are also factors that would contribute to creativity. Then next is motivation. So motivation, a very important point when you want to create something new, when you want some rewards, motivation is very important. Or to create something new, a task focused motivation should be there to, or it's also essential to creativity. That was given research by Amabile, 1983. Then environment, your environment should be very supportive, where you could create something, where you could display something. And confluence. So confluence, your knowledge, your motivation, your other factors like intelligence, all this, there's 6 components. So knowledge, then your motivation, and then your intelligence, motivation, all this. I mean, they've talked about these factors. Then aspects of creativity. We also have Guilford in 1986. He has talked about how you could be creative. So you could have divergent thinking, fluency, flexibility, originality, elaboration. So if you remember his theories of intelligence, content, product, and operation. So that was again based on, that could support the concept of creativity. So fluency, flexibility, originality, elaboration, abstractness of titles, resistance to premature closure, all these are important. And then here is an stages of that was given by Graham Wallace, 1926. So he has talked about 4 stages of creativity. So first one is stage of preparation. When you want to create something new, you have to prepare. A trial and error learning takes place. You try again and again. Then stage 2, that is incubation. So in this stage, you're not in the second stage, the solution exists, but it is not clear. You have this solution in front of you, but you're not clear what has to be done. So still you decide between different solution. So that is unconsciously you think that what is right and what is wrong. Have you found the solution or not? And then in stage 3, you finally you like in stage 2 you have the solution in front of you, but you're not sure what will work. But in stage 3 illumination, you have the solution. You finally get into the experience of a solution. Then the last stage, stage 4, verification. So you have the solution now, you are illuminated that okay, you find the solution, now you want to verify it, whether it's going to work for you or not, the solution you have been searching for. So that is stages of a stage of verification. Then here is a study that they have talked about creativity and intelligence, the relationship between creativity and intelligence, and a study by Torrance 1997, then Guilford 1967. So they talked about this fact that every individual could have an intelligence, a certain level of intelligence, but to be creative, you need a kind of intelligence as well. So to be intelligent, you don't need to be creative, but to be creative, you need to be intelligent. So you will find this a summary of this line that's I'm saying. You'll find in this paragraph. Otherwise, every study has been mentioned. Many studies has been mentioned. Now, how you can measure creativity? So we have seen the different tests that could measure intelligence. Over here, we can see some test of creativity. So we have this test by Hodge and Crook 1995, Torrance test of creative thinking. Then Torrance test of creative thinking again in 2006, it was revised and it was used in 30 languages. Then Guilford structure of the intellect. Then you can see that it is, the factors that comprises of the TTCT was fluency, originality, elaboration, flexibility. All these were used to construct the creativity test. And then there's certain criticism also to the test, to do the TTCT test. That is, the test sets might influence the result, thus different order in the presentation of the items leads to different results. So the test doesn't always yield the same result. So for any test to be standardized, it should result the same test. So for example, a BP machine or a machine which measures diabetes. So if your diabetes, the scale is not giving the same result again and again, then you cannot say, or maybe a weighing machine. Right now you measured and then it says that you're 70 kg. But later on, after 10 minutes, it says that you're 110. So that weighing machine is not correct. That is not appropriate. So for this case also, TTC, it was not yielding the same result again and again. So this you'll find. Then another topic we have, that is problem solving. So terms related to problem solving. Okay, so when it comes to problem solving, there are again 4 stages. First of all, the initial stage or the original stage. So for problem solving, you need an original state, or you take the initiative to solve a problem. Then the second stage is the goal or the end stage. You finally find a solution and then you reach the goal. And then another factors that are involved in problem solving are the person. The person should be there. A problem should be there to solve a problem. To find a solution to a problem. And then there are certain rules. When you want to solve a problem, maybe you want to learn driving. So there are certain rules that has to be applied to overcome the problem of driving, right? Then typologies of problems. Okay, here is this scholars experiment. I wanted to show you all this. Okay, so there are 2 types or typologies of problem, well-defined or ill-defined problem. So a problem is well-defined if there is deniable initial state and a goal state. And then a problem is ill-defined when there is no start stage and a goal state. So these 2 you will find. Okay, I'll just show you this video also, Kohlberg's Coller's experiment with the chimpanzee. Before we move on, I think we should take the video first, and then you'll be able to understand. Class, is my screen visible? Was it unit 3 visible?
Yes, miss.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Okay. Are you all able to understand?
getting there, miss.
You're getting me?
Yes, we are following.
We're
Miss,
following
I
you.
think once we review, it
Sorry?
becomes clearer. Miss, once we review, it becomes clearer.
I'm not able to get you. Can you repeat once again?
Miss, once we review what you're
Explain
doing,
to
it
us.
becomes clearer.
Clearer when we
Yes.
read.
For example, if I look at the video again, I understand better.
Yes. That's why I'll be sharing videos most of the time so that you can understand better. Okay.
At the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology in Leipzig, Germany, psychologist Joseph Cole places a peanut inside a clear tube. How can the chimpanzee get the snack?
The subtitle is not available, is it? Can you understand?
Yes, we turn
Yes.
up the volume, we can understand a bit.
Yeah.
For 10 minutes, there's no... At the Max Planck
Can
Institute
you make
for
the screen bigger, miss, please?
Leipzig, Germany, psychologist Joseph Cole places a peanut inside a clear tube. How can the chimpanzee get the snack? She's never seen this puzzle before. For 10 minutes, there's no solution inside. And all of a sudden, boom, they solve it. They have to understand that they can use the water as a tool. It's interesting because the water itself, it doesn't have any shape. Using water as a tool seems like something we would do on a good day. Good times for a change. See the luck I've had can make a good man turn back. So please, 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 let me.
Just a second, I think. Maybe this will work.
Insight learning. Definition. All of his contribute in the Sultan inside a insight learning experiment. During his experiment, Kohler placed a chimpanzee named the Sultan inside a cage. Sultan grew hungry and a bunch of banana was placed just outside the cage. Sultan was provided with one long and another short bamboo stick. Neither of the sticks could reach the banana alone, and the only possible way to reach the banana was to join the two sticks. Initially, Sultan showed all customary reactions that a chimpanzee shows inside a cage and gradually tried to draw the banana towards him with the sticks. After countless fruitless efforts, Sultan nearly gave up, but as he was playing with the sticks, he managed to touch the banana by pushing a stick with another stick. Sultan accidentally managed to join the two sticks, and with its help, it pulled the banana inside the cage. Sultan immediately grabbed the banana when faced with the same problem next day. Insight learning is the abrupt realization of a problem solution. It is not the result of trial and error, that is, responding to an environmental stimulus, or the result of observing someone else attempting the problem. It is a completely cognitive experience that requires the ability to visualize the problem and the solution internally, that is, in the mind's eye. Learning occurs in a variety of ways. Sometimes it is the result of direct observation, other times it is the result of experience through personal interactions with the environment. Kohler called this newly observed type of learning insight learning. Based on these observations, Kohler's theory of insight learning became an early argument for the involvement of cognition or thinking in the process of learning.
Okay, can you, so we have seen this video. Was it understandable?
Yes, miss.
Yes. So let's get back to unit 4.
Miss, one quick question.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, a little bit of trivia. Have there ever been any experiments done with octopus or squid?
Any
Similar
experiment done on?
with using octopus?
No, I'm not aware about this. I don't think so. It's done in psychology.
Okay. That's all. Thanks.
Avinash, I'm curious. Why octopus?
I
Why
once saw a National Geographic documentary where they would put, for example, a source of food like a crab inside of a container, and the octopus would figure out a way how to open the container.
Okay.
Yeah, they squeeze through a small space and try to fit in. Yeah.
So yeah. So this
Yeah, we
was
can
an experiment that was done to understand the elimination, how Collar's Sultan, the chimpanzee, was able to solve the problem. So we also have another problem. So problem of inducing structure, and it comprises of attribution, discovery, encoding. Then we have problems of transformation. So we'll see this stage. This again another video on initial state and goal state. Then problems of arrangement. Then there are certain stages of problem solving. So stages of problem solving, again, it is explained by Gestalt psychology, and it was given by Polya. So they talked about the first stage: to define, understand, and think about the problem, devise a plan for solution, carry out the plan, looking back. So I mean, all this is done by the working memory, using a long-term memory for a production, for a system, and then executing the production system and evaluating the result. And there are certain strategies to solve problem. The first one is algorithm. So algorithm is a strategy that ensures the correct solution to the problem. So in well-defined rule of the solution, it is followed. So analogies would be any solution that is available at that situation, and when you apply that, so that and it guarantees the solution to the problem. So that is known as algorithm. While for heuristics, there are different solutions that are available to a problem, and then you solve it. So that are known as heuristics. And then working backwards. So if you have seen certain children, making a block, so they would use different blocks there, and they're not able to solve. So working backward system can be applied. Maybe paper and pencil maze also. And analogies. So which problem so in analogies you can use the past experience to solve certain problems. Then what are the factors affecting problem solving? Could be the nature of the problem. If you are not able to understand the problem, what exactly the problem is, it will take it could be a barrier in solving the problem. Then when there is a difference between initial and the goal state, when you take a lot of time, to when there is a huge gap between initial and the goal state. So for example, take a complete jumble of letters in an anagram which clearly describes such a solution. So if your puzzle, so for example, you might have remembered that when you get a new puzzle, when it's a new, you're able to solve it maybe quickly, but when all the puzzles are mixed by your kids and they're not able to solve very quickly. So that's one thing. Then the perceiver set, you also need to have this mindset that yes, you'll be able to solve problem. So that's one thing. And functional fixedness, or see, first of all, they've talked about that problem solving. Past experience could be used to solve problems, but if you use your past experience all the time, then that is not going to solve the problem. So functional, that is known as functional fixedness. So here we come to the end of unit 4 also. And before that, I wanted you all to see another video on Tower of Hanoi. Yeah. This one.
So you want to be a software engineer at Google? Go to algoexpert.io. Pick a question. Read the prompt.
Hello friends, this video is about Tower of Hanoi problem. I'm going to show you how to write an algorithm for Tower of Hanoi by taking a small example as well as large example with 3 disks. The problem is there are 3 towers given, and one of the tower is having a stack of disks in the decreasing order of the sizes from bottom towards top. We have to move all this disk from tower A to tower C. And at any moment of time, a larger disk should not be kept over a smaller disk. So this will not be easy to transfer all this disk. So for help, one more auxiliary tower is given, which we can use for transferring this disk. There can be any number of disks given in this tower. So let us see how to solve this problem by taking a small example. I am taking one example with a single disk. Suppose there is only a single disk given in the tower. Then the solution is very easy. Move a disk from tower A to tower C. Now next, if there are 2 disks given, disk 1 and disk 2, then the first move will be move a disk from tower A to tower B. As we are not moving into destination tower, we are moving into an auxiliary tower, that is intermediate tower B. So I have written the statement like this: move a disk from tower A to B using C, I am saying. This is done. Now, second move is move a disk from A to C. So as it is a destination tower, so directly move a disk from A to C. And this is done. Now third step is move a disk from B to C using A. So here I am not starting from source or the beginning tower. I am starting from B. So I am again using the term using here. So B to C using A. B to C using A. So this is how the statements are framed. And finally, this is moved. So these steps were very simple. If there are 2 disks are given, then the problem is very small. It's very trivial. And these are the 3 steps. Now let us move to the next problem. If there are 3 disks given, now we can call this problem as large. This is a little bit complex. If there are 3 disks, I am going to give the moves like this. Move 2 disks from A to B using C. Actually, we have to move 1 disk at a time, but here I am saying move 2 disks. How to move 2 disks from one tower to another tower? Already we have seen it, so you can apply that procedure. So it means this statement is a recursive statement. So it's not talking about 1 disk at a time. Here it's talking 2 disks at a time. So how to move to 2 disks? We have already seen the procedure. So let us see this. And these 2 disks are moved here. This is done. Second step is move a disk from A to C. Move 1 disk from A to C. That's it. It's done. Then third step is move 2 disks from B to C. These 2 disks we have to move from B to C using A. Again, this is a recursive step. How to move these two disks from this tower to this tower already we have seen. So this is a recursive step. And finally this is done. Now, these three steps are very important for devising a recursive procedure for Tower of Hanoi problem. If there are n disks, then those three steps can be written like this. When there were 3 disks, we wrote here 2. So it means if it is 4 disks, then we'll write 3. So similarly, if there are n disks, we write n minus 1. So those 3 steps are repeated here. Move n minus 1 disk from A to B using C. Move a disk from A to C. And move n minus 1 disk from B to C using A. So this forms our recursive algorithm for Tower of Hanoi. Now here is an algorithm. Here you can compare it with these 3 steps with the algorithm. N minus 1 disk from A to B using C. And move a disk from A to C. N minus 1 disk from B to C using A. Algorithm is, if there are n disks and 3 towers are given A, B, C, and if there are more than 0 disks, then first step, n minus 1 disk. Here, B is the middle tower which we are using. So I can call it as using. So now, in this step, C becomes using. So C comes in the middle. Source, destination, this is middle one. So source, destination, this is the middle one. And next step is printf move is from A to C. That's it. And third, n minus 1 disk. This is source, this is destination, this is middle tower. So source, destination, and this is middle tower. So this is how the algorithm is devised based on the 3 steps we have seen. Here I am going to trace this algorithm for 3 disks. So this algorithm or a function is called by passing 3 disks and tower numbers are given 1, 2, 3. Now inside the algorithm there are 3 steps. First is a recursive call, then printf, then again a recursive call. So I'm not going to show this tracing in the calling sequence, but I'm just going to expand this. Now here you can see when 3 disks are passed with 1, 2, 3, then there are 3 steps. N minus 1 ACB. So n minus 1 is from 3, it is 2. ACB. So 1, 3, 2. The next is printf AC. Printf AC. 1, 3. Then again a function called recursive call n minus 1 BAC. So 2, this is B, this is A, and this is C. Then again these 2 recursive call has to be expanded. So they are expanded like this. Right. Now we call this as A and this as B and this as C. Based on that, these calls are written. Again these will expand. So this is how it looks like. As after 1 disk, the next call will be for 0 disk. And nothing going to happen when there are 0 disk. So that's why I have put a mark here. To show that it terminates here. Now finally, in this complete tracing, these are the printfs. I have collected all of them here at the bottom. 1 to 3, 1 to 2, 3 to 2, 1 to 3, so on. Now these are the moves that we have to take for transferring or moving 3 disks from tower A to tower C. So let us see whether these moves will really help us in moving 3 disks from tower A to tower C. Here are the steps or moves. The first move is 1 to 3. So we'll move 1 disk from tower 1 to tower 3. This is done. Then second move, tower 1 to tower 2. This is done. Third move, tower 3 to tower 2. This is done. that's all. We have followed all these moves and we have transferred all these traders from tower A to tower C or tower 1 to tower 3. So that's all. This is the tracing for traders. Now similarly, this algorithm can work for n number of disks. Hope you have understood the working of tower of 9. Thank you for watching.
So class, yeah. So this again, it's a very famous experiment to solve problem. You can again watch the videos once again at home. So this was all about Unit 3 from Block 1, MPC 1. I mean Unit 4, Unit Block 2 and Unit 4. Now let's move on to Block 3, that is language and comprehension. So this is Block 3, language and language acquisition. So again, even in this topic, you will understand what is the relationship between language and intelligence, or yes, what are the different theories. So we have Noam Chomsky theory of language acquisition. So how we have talked about, so the theories of language acquisition has been also explained in the perspective of behaviorism. Then we have cognitive theory, we have the biological theory of, or the biology of language acquisition. All these are we are going to see. So are you ready for the next block? Yes. Everyone is quiet.
Yes, miss.
Yes,
Yes,
miss.
miss. We
We're
have to
ready.
move on.
Yes,
Yes,
miss.
miss.
Let's go ahead.
Yes, we can move on. So just a second, I'll just share my screen. Why am I not able to share the screen? Okay, class. So what is your take on language acquisition? What do you think? Do we observe our elders, our caretakers, and then we start speaking? Or is it something that is we are born with, the theory of innateness, that would they would support that? Or would you go with Chomsky theory that we have the language acquisition device? Or it is something biological? What is your take on this?
Miss, to
Yes.
be honest, I think it has a lot to do with your environment. My argument for that is, why is it that if I'm born to a family that speaks Portuguese, my native language is Portuguese, rather if I born to English speaking parents, I speak English. So I believe it's based on the environment as it relates to this is the language they're speaking, so that's the language you'll speak.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we will talk about the different theories in the field of psychology that have contributed to understand how we acquire language. So first of all, we have behaviorist. So this was based on the theory of B.F. Skinner. As you can see, behaviorist. So they believe that children imitate adults. Their correct utterances are reinforced when they get what they want or what they are praised for. So behaviorist Skinner and many other psychologists, when they were investigating the concept of how language are acquired, so it was believed that we imitate our adults. That is why we're able to speak, and our behaviors are reinforced. So when we speak incorrect language or incorrect words are uttered, our caretakers or our adults will like they would reinforce our behavior, that what is correct, what has to be spoken and what not. So the behavioral school would support this theory that it is something where we imitate our elders and adults. Then innateness. So Noam Chomsky, he believed that we have the language acquisition device. The child's brain contains special language learning mechanism at birth. That's what he believed. But his theory was criticized on the fact that there was this girl, Guinea, she was isolated for 10 years when she was very young, maybe but she was not the parents were not talking to her, and then she was isolated. But when she was rescued, she was still not able to speak. So Noam Chomsky theory of language acquisition device that is stored in the brain, that's what he believes. So they believe that if language acquisition device is acquired, then why Guinea is not able to even speak? So his theory failed. I mean, it was criticized based on Guinea's case study. Then Piaget. So Piaget believed in the cognitive theory of theory, and they found that language is one of the child's intellectual capacity, or it's one of the child's overall intellectual development. So we will see the Piaget's theory also in MPC-2, and then we will understand. So he has talked about that we talk when a child is able to speak, because the language intellectual development happens in the child's brain. So that's what he believed. So all this theory, you will find the history is written there, but a very graphical presentation has been provided in this chart. So I'm just explaining this. Then interactionist. So Brunner, he believed that it is the environment. So right now, one of you already mentioned about you have talked about you supported the theory of environment. So Jeremy Brunner, he also emphasized that interaction happens when there is an interaction between the child and the caregivers. That is why the child is able to speak, or the language has been acquired. So that associate the idea with interactionist. So all this you'll find, you please give a reading to this, and your homework for today is you have to find what are the limitations or what are the criticism for all this theory. You'll find, you have to search for this. So you can find criticism for all this theory also. So no particular theory was fully supported or fully accepted, but there were certain limitations. You can read from here also, or maybe you can read from other sources and find your resources on how different languages are acquired. Then there's certain evidence also that yes, there is it is also believed that as fast as possible the child speaks to learn, his memory, his intelligence also gets developed. So the earlier the child speaks, there is a more chances that the child is more intelligent, or the brain is getting developed more. So people were trying to find relationship between language and brain. So that's what you will see in unit 1. In unit 1. Then in unit 2, we will talk about the production. So what are the different structure of language? For this, I can share a PDF, and then you can understand well. Structure of language. Can you see this diagram?
Yes, miss. Yes, we can.
So in unit 2, you will find about the different topics on how words are formed, what is the structure of language. So again, we can see, I'll explain through a PDF so that you understand better. So the first stage, when the child develops a language, or when the child learns to speak a language, the first is the phonetic stage. So the child falls into the category of the phonetics. So over here, he focuses just on the speech sounds. So there is no sentence. It would be just babbling like ah, ba, da, ba, right? So that is known as the speech sounds, and that is governed by the phonetics, by the phonetic structure of language. Then the second would be phonology. So phonology, and it is known as phonemes. So the meaning, they would, first of all, in the phonetics is just that one word or maybe one single sounds, but in phonetics there would be two sounds. Then the third one is morphology, that is words. They would understand the word. Now, they would, like for example, if they want a milk, then they would be able to say milk, milk, or maybe if they see some kind of animal, then they would name them when we teach them. So that is governed by morphology. Then the next one is syntax. So syntax is phrases and sentence. So now they're able to milk, give me milk. If they want milk, then give milk. That's what how they will respond. So that is governed by syntax. Then the last one, I mean fifth one, is semantics. So literal meaning of phrases and sentence. Now over in this stage, they're able to understand the meaning. So give milk, they actually understand what, or maybe you want them to sit down, or maybe you will ask them go to their room, then they will understand that meaning. So semantics works at the fifth stage. Sorry. Then the last one is pragmatic, so meaning in context. So they will be able to use, now they will be able to speak the language in terms of context. So what they want, what has to be spoken in a certain situation, that one they will be using, and that is known as pragmatic. So unit 2, you'll talk about the structure of language, and various different explanations are given in this. Then example, again certain examples are also given this, so I don't want to go one by one, otherwise it will take time, so please go through that. Then we also have some models. Okay, you remember the bottom up and the top down processing class, or you forgot?
Just remember.
Yes, miss, we remember.
Yes, so we have Kinch's model of comprehension also. So this person also talked about that as a child, when we comprehend language, we use two type of processing. Either it is bottom-up processing or the top-down process. So when we have to understand certain, so at the pragmatic level or at the semantic level, they are going to use this kind of processes. So that's what they're talking about in this topic. And then all these are some description on how languages are developed, what happens, so you can give a reading, but I'm just explaining the important topics. That is the main agenda in these units. Then in unit 3, they are talking about multilingualism. So how we are able to speak different languages, or is it, even if you're not in India we have different languages. So for example, I know 4 languages in India. I like English, Hindi, and then my mother tongue, and then I understand one more language. I was in a particular state, so I know that native language of that state as well. So, and apart from that, I understand 2 more languages. So it's the environment that has helped me to understand. So unit 3 is talking about multilingualism. So they have talked about how, I think everyone right now speaks at least 2 or 3 languages. In India, we speak at least two languages, at least 3. Many of them, they would speak at least 3 languages. And so all this they have mentioned here. And yeah, so they have also tried to explain what is the relationship between multilingualism and thinking, how we think, So there, all these studies has been provided on how we solve, how we acquire language. So acquisition in second language, all this has been mentioned. So how our brain functions, So you might have seen certain studies where they believe that for children, young children, it's a very right age for them to learn different languages. So you'll see this in unit 3. Then unit 4, okay, here it is a very important topic. Unit 4, we as a psychologist, we are also going to deal with language disorders, aphasia, autism, learning disabilities or learning difficulties, Alzheimer's disease, specific language impairment, developmental phonological disorder, dyspraxia, voice disorder, speech disorders. Then all this, we are going to see. So there are 2 kind of language problems. So one, which is a neurodevelopmental disorders, which has been since the child was born, and another one is due to delay in the brain, brain development, or maybe decay in the brain development. So that happens in Alzheimer's disease. Maybe you're not able to speak certain words or certain languages, or specific language impairment happens due to neurological issues. So all this was provided by Watkins 1994 or 1974. Yes, 1994, sorry, yes. So these are some studies. As a psychologist, you will also see cases of developmental delay, that is known as developmental dyspraxia. And it's an impairment in the ability to plan and carry out sensory and motor tasks. So when there is a miscoordination between what you want to speak and your motor coordination, that is also a language, that leads to language impairment. So you'll find these speech disorders. You will find speech disorders for young kids when they're not able to speak loudly, or volume, pitch, quality, rate. All this, they face difficulties. Then articulation disorder. We have articulation disorders for speech sound disorders, influency disorders, apraxia of speech. All these are some kind of neurodevelopmental delays that happens in the brain, and the child faces a problem when the child grows up. So you will find all these readings are here, and yeah, many of them, they are neurological speech disorders and motor speech disorders. Otherwise, some the language problems that has been faced by elderly individual, that happens in certain cognitive impairment, maybe Alzheimer, dementia, or mild cognitive impairment, or maybe after an accident, brain injury, stroke. Then we have brain injury. Then we have epilepsy. So all these are certain issues. So now you have to understand that there are two different types of issues that could lead to language development. One is the neurological issue that has been present since birth, and the other one is when the child grows up, maybe brain injury or some other issues has taken place, or cognitive impairment. So that, for that also, that could lead to language delay or language disorder. So as a psychologist, you have to, we have autism also, like autism also. So autistic behavior analysis, they would talk about intervention plan, so how solution could be provided. So all this you will read in Unit 4. Right. So I don't know if you have gone through this or not, but I would really want you all to take this, to read this today, especially this topic, Unit 4, that is language and speech disorder, because they're very important and it's going to help you as a psychologist also. And then I also wanted to talk about one brain area. So one brain area, Wernicke's aphasia, it is known as. So when the left temporal lobe of the brain is damaged, then the individual is not able to understand spoken words and sentences. And then when the Broca's area, so Broca's aphasia, so when the frontal, when the yes, so when the frontal lobe of the part is damaged, then the person is not able to, it affects the speech production. So the first one affects a Wernicke's area, it is the speech comprehension, and in Broca's area, it is the speech production. Okay. So all this you'll find, all these are some readings. And then in learning difficulties, or we have dyslexia. So again, it's a disorder in children who, despite conventional classroom experience, fail to attain the language skills of reading, writing, and spelling, due to their intellectual abilities. So you'll find this. And then we've already talked about Alzheimer's disease after a certain age. That could lead to, the impairment could lead to certain language disorders. So it's a very interesting area. I think you should go through this. I don't know if you read these notes or not, but make sure that you read this time, so that we can have some discussion next time in the next class. Yes, Ryan?
Good day, greetings, Miss. Good morning to everyone. One quick question. As regards to the structural development of language, you talk about phonics and syntactics, right? Is there any information that shows the age, the expected ability based on the age category?
Yes. It is below, like from infant to 2 to 3, 4 years only, because by 4 years now we are able to speak, we are able to understand different meaning and context. By 4 to 5, or maybe the last stage would be 6 years also. Infant to 6 years, I think you can take that.
Okay. All right, Miss. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think I'll not be able to. Yeah, so it's infancy to 12 months, the first one, speech and sounds. Then that is phonetics, phonology would be 1 to 2 years. Morphology would be 2 to 3 years. Then syntax would be 3 to 5 years. And Semantics would be 5 to 10 years, and pragmatics would be 10 years and above. So here we can find the stages. Yes, it is there. It is there. You'll find this.
Thank you, Miss.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions?
Miss, good morning, everyone. I wanted to find out, so since we're doing block 3 tomorrow, we'll continue in, and will we be going on to block 4 and then probably starting MPC-2 next week, Saturday?
Yeah, just a second. I have, so this one was block 3 and wait, I got confused. Just a second. Yes, we have done block 3 and we talked about language acquisition, language processing. So the main important topics we have talked about, and tomorrow we'll talk about block 3, that is problem solving. Didn't we talk about problem solving also?
Yeah, but that is encompassed in block 4 also.
Yes.
I think it's a more detailed, because I just wanted to know. I know that it doesn't align with what we have on our platform here in terms of how we go with the courses. So I just wanted to know when we would be starting MPC-2, so we can get ahead with the readings, or at least be in the same line. So
Yeah,
tomorrow
so
we will continue block 3.
yes. No, block
And
3
go
we
on
have
to block.
done. We have done with
Block
block
3
3.
is
Now
done. Okay.
yes, let me
So
share my
block
screen.
4 tomorrow.
Let me share my screen. Just a second, Nessa. Yes, Vahid, we have a test. There are certain language and speech disorder tests. Yes, their test. It's available with the psychologists. It's very difficult to, share. But I'll share some of them maybe online. Like today, I shared. Yes, they are tests. Certain language tests are there. For autism, we have, and for other areas also, brain areas, we do have. Like Luria, Nebraska, we have. We use in India over here. Okay, so here it is. So here we come to MPC-1, block 1 information processing, block 2 intelligence and creativity. So we have done this. Creativity and problem solving, yes, you could say that it is quite similar. But and we did block 3 right now. Language acquisition, language processing, multilingualism, language and speech disorder. So I don't want to go one by one now, because earlier it was, the important topics were there. This is also important, but it is more of research based. So I've talked about something. I've talked the important pointers. I've explained that, but you have to read now. You have to read on your own, and then if you have any questions, then we can talk about. Then tomorrow we can talk about problem solving. That's what you're asking, Nessa, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. So block 4 will be tomorrow, and any questions from block 3 we can ask
But
tomorrow.
let
So
me
that
see.
means on Saturday we will be
Yes, one second.
next Saturday. Sorry.
No, we can start. We can start with block. So we can start with MPC tomorrow itself, because see, this is a very simple. It is quite similar to block 2, unit 4. Don't you think so? Nature of problem solving, they're all same. What do you say? See, they're all same. They are not
I guess
different.
we'll just have to. I guess we'll just have to read.
Okay, Miss.
Okay, because we don't want to be behind. That's what I'm thinking.
Yes. So you guys, so okay, let me do one thing. You guys please read this one. If you have any doubt from block 4, then please let me know. Otherwise, we'll start with block 2. Okay? all these are very important. I mean, these are very simple topics you will be able to understand, and this already I've explained in unit 4 of block 2. See, Tower of Hanoi, solution, all this. Will you be able to do that?
Could we start MPC-2 on Saturday? Because just to make sure we cover all our questions and everything from MPC-1. I'm speaking for myself. I don't know about
Okay.
everybody else in the classroom.
Okay, we'll take this. We'll take block 4. Don't worry. We'll take block 4 tomorrow also. Don't worry. But I'll have to take some questions also.
Miss, I agree with her. I prefer to start MPC-2 on Saturday.
Yes,
Me
yes,
too,
yes.
miss. Me too, miss.
Yes, miss. Let's
Okay.
do that.
Fine, that's totally fine. So please go through these notes, and then we'll start with MPC in the next class. Tomorrow we'll continue with MPC 4. Overall, I'm going to take all the questions from block 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that fine?
Yes, miss.
Yes, yes, miss. Very much appreciated.
Yes.
So, miss, at what point we will be having assignment for this unit, for this block?
Sorry, Denisa, I didn't get you.
At what point will we be having our assignment for this block? Because I think we were told that every block would have an assignment. Is that true?
Yeah, the main theories, the main topics, I think around that only your assignment will be revolving. Yes.
So, miss, for the
Miss, I
course,
think
for the
she's
course, will we
asking
have an assignment
when
for
would
the course? For
When would you get the
MPC?
question for assignment? Is that what you're asking?
Miss, I
Yes.
think
Okay, I'll
Okay,
call.
so we're wrapping up this MPC-1. Do we have
Yes.
an assignment attached to MPC-1? An assignment which will be assessed? I know you've been telling us to, check out research papers and so on, but is there a specific assignment? Is there an
Yes,
assignment?
yes, yes.
Right. And
Yes,
when
we
would
will
we
be
get
sharing
that?
that as well. I'll
Sorry?
call Ashok sir tomorrow, Mr. Ashok sir tomorrow, and then he can take your questions related to
Okay.
assignment. Okay? I'll call
Okay,
him
miss.
tomorrow. Wahid, do you have a question? Like, please, you can talk in the class so that even others could be benefited from the same. Or maybe I can share my email ID and then you can write your queries.
Okay, miss, that'll be good. You share your email.
So let me tell you, class, let me summarize what we have done till now. We have done MPC-1, that is cognitive psychology, block 1, block 2, block 3, and block 4. So block 4, again, it is talking about problem solving. We already have seen the callers experiment on chimpanzee, Sultan, then Tower of Hanoi, and all these, problem solving algorithm, heuristics, all this has been there. So we have somewhat covered block 4, say, because it was similar to unit 4 from block 2. So don't have to get confused. Tomorrow, overall, you please read and have certain questions. We can have discussions. And for MPC-2, I'm going to start next Saturday. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll stop the recording, and then do you have any questions, and then maybe we can wind up then. Any questions? You want to take your time and read and come back?
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss.
Okay, right now, do you have any questions? Any other questions?
Go through it, miss. We will have questions for you.
Okay. Okay. You can read today and then we'll see the questions tomorrow. So shall we wind up?
Thank you, miss.
Miss.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am. Let's go.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, miss. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you were able to understand. Am I going too fast?
It's okay,
Miss,
miss.
no, but
Miss,